Hello and welcome to another week of Mind to Mind. My name is Evelyn Jerry from Nairobi, Kenya, and I'm glad to be back to another week where we will be discussing about toxic femininity. And I'm joined by my colleague and friend, Dr. Daniel Claiborne. Say hi to people.
Hi there. We're very happy to be back. We always look forward to this so much. And as we say every time, if you have questions or suggestions for other ideas for programs, please let us know. We're very open to that.
Yeah, that is awesome. Dr. Claiborne, let's talk about toxic femininity. How would you describe toxic femininity?
Well, first of all, let's kind of recap from last time. Last time we talked about toxic masculinity, and one thing I wanted to clarify is that really it's whether these ideas, these habits that are toxic, whether they're masculine or feminine, doesn't make so much difference. It's understanding how they can be damaging and to ourselves and our own self-esteem and to others to kind of think or act in certain ways. Um, yeah, you may have seen our outline from last time. This list of toxic behaviors we have, many of them in a small amount are fine or helpful even. It's when they're used excessively or all the time or too much, then they become toxic. And as we talked about last time, there are a number of things that can be toxic that we don't think of as masculine or feminine at all, like being dishonest or jealous or selfish or paranoid or obsessive. There are many ways that we can be destructive to ourselves or others that we don't really think of as feminine or masculine. But last time we talked about some things that we kind of think of as masculine, and maybe men do them more, like being domineering, or having to win, or feeling like if I express emotions, that's a sign of weakness, things like that. We talked about those last time, and then today we thought we would talk about things that sometimes are considered more feminine, but that in the extreme can be toxic to ourselves as we do these things or to other people. So, and we have a list of these. I think Evelyn has provided that to you. Oh, and
Yeah, I shared.
by the way, if you ever want more information on any of our topics, just let myself or Evelyn know, and we can independently send you more information. Anyway,
Yeah,
toxic femininity would be some of these things we think of as maybe feminine, but if you do them in an extreme way or all the time, they can be harmful to your own self-development and to your relationships with others, either intimate relationships or at work or in your family. So today we thought we would talk about them. And Evelyn will have examples and questions that she imagines that everyone out there would be wondering.
yeah. If you could go to the description on Facebook, Twitter, on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube, you will see what the outline I shared is. So you can follow through as we discuss the topic. And if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask.
A lot of the ones we're going to talk about that are toxic femininity are things that a person doesn't do, a way that a person might hold back from being
Mhm.
true to themselves and expressing themselves directly. The first one on our list is passivity. In other words, being more of a reactive person, letting other people determine things around us, and then we may react to it, but we don't feel
Mhm.
like we are actually leading or in charge or initiating. We're just kind of a victim of whatever other people may say or do or think. And too
Yeah.
much of that is harmful to our own self-esteem and to our relationships. Very often, if we're in a relationship with somebody and we're, yeah, and this could be true at work even, and we're too passive, eventually that those other people will move on and we will become
Mhm.
visible. And it's almost as though we're not really even there.
Yeah. It also works against you to work again. It works against you not to take charge of your life, because if you are dependent on other people to take charge of your life, they will control how you live, when you eat, and basically like everything about your life. And quite honestly, it's like you're enabling, like for example, if you're in a relationship with a man, and not just a man, like even in your work environment, you are also enabling people, like with someone who has let's say toxic masculinity, you're enabling them to take charge of your life, and they will not be able to um they'll not be able to confront some of their toxic behaviors, because if you enable all their behaviors and you enable them to control your life, then that's how you guys are going to live. And you teach the people how to treat you as well.
Hmm. Yeah, I think in those relationships where one person, whether it's the man or the woman, are very passive, the research shows that those relationships don't last uh, as long. Uh,
Mhm.
the dominant person becomes tired of the other person being in so dependent and
Yeah.
passive, and they seek a better relationship outside of that relationship. And so at first it may seem like those relationships work well because one person's passive and the other person's dominant, but
Mhm.
in the long run, they don't work as well as as a relationship where both people are somewhat dominant or assertive about their feelings and their wishes, and where it's more balanced.
Yeah. And also I find it that when for example now the passive person decides that they want to now take charge of their life, and they had created an environment where they were not in any control, and then they want to start taking back control for themselves, they are met with so much resistance, especially if they are dealing with another toxic person. So it becomes harder for you to create boundaries, especially if you did not create boundaries at the beginning.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, if you had gotten used, or if the other party had gotten used to and comfortable to them taking charge of your life, and then now you want to take control and take charge of your own life, you are met with so much resistance.
This brings up a topic that's a little off our topic, but it's important. And that is in any relationship at work or intimate relationships, if one person starts to grow more and to
Mhm.
be more expressive or self-reliant or whatever their growth is, it does challenge the relationship because then the other person has to adjust. And
Yeah.
often it can be a good adjustment and healthier and better for both people, but it can be
Mhm.
difficult at first because it's something new.
Yeah, because it changes the dynamic of the relationship.
Uh-huh. Yes. Yeah, the rules and the way that two individuals have been operating, then when one person changes, then the rules then need to be changed for both people. Um,
Mhm.
what we notice with relationships that go a long time, let's say 40 or 50 years, that periodically, every few years, there's a readjustment or a kind of a renegotiation of our rules and our way of operating with each other, just because both people are changing all the time.
Yeah.
We're not static. We're all of us evolving and changing and growing, and some of that can be due to external circumstances like health problems or change of jobs or having children, and some of it can be internal, just maturing and growing
Yeah.
and wanting to be somewhat of a different kind of person.
Yeah. Another way I find I think I've found it to be challenging is that if you attracted someone when you were passive and then you begin to grow
Hmm.
into a different person and like to actually the best version of yourself, you find that you may no longer be attracted to the person you attracted in the first place
Hmm.
because you attracted them based on your insecurities and your weaknesses. So at your strength, you need a different kind of person. And I think also that creates some friction in the
Uh-huh.
relationship.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, one of the good things is lots of times in a relationship, both people are growing. And so both
Mhm.
people are changing. And so each person is reacting to the other person's changes. And that's a good situation because it requires adjustment, but it usually works out pretty well. But
Yeah.
as Evelyn is saying, yes, could it be that if you change in a certain way enough and that your partner isn't changing, then they may not be the partner for you as they seem to be in the beginning.
Yeah. Mhm.
Another one on our list is that is toxic is when you accommodate or put up with being abused or suppressed or dismissed as a person. Um,
Mhm.
every once in a while, it's all right to give in to the other person's criticism, or particularly if it's accurate. But a toxic trait would be where a person does that most of the time, where the other
Mhm.
person is controlling or abusive or dismissive or humiliating or manipulative, and then the person herself just accepts it.
Yeah.
That would be unhealthy, both for her but also for the relationship and the other person too.
Yeah. I think some of this behavior, like I think that's a toxic behavior. If it does come up, especially in a relationship, it is important to communicate your boundary around it. If
Hmm.
someone, for example, is emotionally abusive or like displays physical abuse, it's good to actually create a boundary about it and to warn them if they cross this line, I will not be around and I will not take it.
Hmm.
And once if someone is healthy, they will respect your boundary and they will be able to restrain themselves and deal with the reason as to why they are feeling um, that way in the first place. But if you don't communicate and if you don't set the boundary, then that's what we're discussing about. Like, which means that you are teaching this person how to treat you. And in most abusive relationships, like most of the stories that I've had, it all began with someone shouted at you, the next minute they pointed at you, the next minute they slapped you, the next minute they threw a punch at you, and then the other time they're kicking you, and all sorts of things are going on. So each each and every one of those moments was an opportunity for you to create a boundary with this person and to show them that it is not okay for you to shout at me, and I do not tolerate this kind of toxic behavior. So if you do not communicate such boundaries to these people, it means that you're tolerating it and you're also submitting to the abuse, and they will always test the boundary. So if you do not, if you don't communicate the boundary, they'll keep pushing and pushing and pushing, and before you know it, you're in a whole violent situation.
Yeah, that's a very well, you stated that really well. And in a lot of our presentations, the issues of boundaries will come up, and also the issue of what we call I statements. When you're saying about telling another person about your boundary, what it is you will accept or what it is you want, things like that, it's best to say I statements. So instead of saying, you make me angry or you make me scared, it's better to say, when you do such and such, I feel angry. Or when you do, this or that, I feel frightened. Uh, or I would rather have us talk about these things as equals. I don't like it when I feel talked down to as though you're superior to me. So we say these things in terms of I statements, which
Yeah.
usually helps the discussion go much better than if we say you make me mad or you're too domineering, or you statements usually put the other person on the defensive. And so we'll talk about the boundaries and I statements quite a bit.
I think that's a really nice tip because like, yeah. I think I've experienced that where you are telling the other person you're trying to create a boundary, but you're focusing more on them and what they need to change.
Hmm.
And I don't communicate how it makes me feel.
Yeah.
So more prone to justify their themselves in the situation.
Yeah, I think it's so easy for us. Somehow we've been kind of coached or brought up to say you're too bossy, you're too loud,
Mm,
you're gone too often. These things are, and we're trying to convey something that's accurate, but
mhm.
by saying you, it puts the other person on the defensive and they stop listening. Whereas we
Yeah.
say, I miss you when you're gone. I
Mm,
worry when you don't call me when you're going to be late.
mm,
Thinking about I, it's much easier for the other person to hear it.
mm,
So Evelyn and I will probably mention this several times, no matter what our topic is, because the I
mm,
statements come in with many topics.
mm.
Another one on our list is that's toxic if we do it too much, is putting another person's needs or their ideas or their goals ahead of our own. Now,
Mm,
once in a while, and on certain occasions, and that at times, that's fine and helpful. But what we're talking about here is when a person does it all the time and,
yeah.
and almost always just defers to the wishes and the goals and the needs of the other person. That's what
Mm,
toxic to ourselves and also the relationship with the other person.
yeah. I think women are so prone to this one because of our natural nature, where like we are so inclined to helping, like like helping people to or taking care of others, taking care of them, making sure like people have eaten and all that. There's so many instances where the woman will serve food to the husband and the children and then forget about herself. And it's not just that, it means that also letting the man pursue his career so that she can like take care of the domestics and all that. Not to say that it's actually wrong, it's not wrong, it's feminine, it's everything, but if you not at the expense of maybe like a dream that you have, because these are things that you can get help from like this. You can hire someone to help you with the domestic uh, duties and all that. I'm talking about like a woman who has like bigger goals than just to be like they have a different purpose. Like for example, like they have a career, they have like goals to achieve, maybe financial goals and all that. So if you do feel like you have a different calling than just being a mom, and I'm not saying just a mom, like it's like being a mother is such a huge like responsibility. I'm not speaking in a way that is demeaning the role. The role is bigger on its own. I'm talking about, like, for example, letting go of your dreams so that you can do this because it is expected of you by society, by your husband, by your family. um a lot of women do that a lot, and you can allow help, like you can receive help from other people to come and help you with domestic issues, especially if you're trying to pursue your dreams.
That's a good point. There are several things that are really important to give to each other and to our family and our children. And, one of them is love and caring.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes women are more accustomed to doing that in a direct way. And then another one is providing, security and quality of life and income. Another one is teaching,
Yeah.
teaching our children things. And in the old world, when our roles were very divided, and the woman generally was staying at home and taking care of the household and the children, and the man was out working, and sometimes the woman did most of the caring and loving, and the man did most of the providing. But we're living in a world now where many in our country for sure, many couples, both people are working, both are providing, and so now each parent has to do all of those things. So the man and the woman both can be loving and caring and
Mm-hmm.
provide emotional security. They both can be providing income for the family. They both
Mm-hmm.
can be teaching the children ways of being successful in life. So now it's like both of us, men and women, have to do each of these things. Uh,
Yeah.
we can have strengths. I could be better at one of those things than another, but yeah, we can't just depend on our partner to do the other half of
Yeah.
what it is to create a good family.
Yeah. Of which you find that, like, I think the transition here in Kenya is not completely, I think that it's not in the same level as the US. So you'll find that the woman is still pursuing her goals and her career and her dreams, but at the same time taking full responsibility of the family and all that. And sometimes it's overwhelming to a point where she doesn't have time for herself, even for her spouse. And it also drains the relationship, and she's not able to like divide her time to every single person. So she's so caught up in pleasing everyone, her bosses, her family,
Mhm.
her partner, her children,
Yeah, that's
that
really important.
she might
Yeah,
she might wind up
and
she
that's
might
happening in the United States also. All the
yeah,
research shows that when both people are in the couple are working, the woman is still doing 70 or 80% of the
yeah,
housekeeping and child rearing.
yeah. And unfortunately, I think this is where we now there's a point where we're going to be discussing about communicating what you need. Like it is important for you to communicate what you need to your partner
Hmm, hmm.
at the time of the need, like, and also receiving help. I think this is one of the toxic traits of women, where they're supposed to. I think due to societal expectation, they are supposed to do some of these things, so they are not accepting of the help. Like maybe the male partner would be willing to help out in the kitchen, but because it was deemed like not a masculine thing, she'll feel guilty, and then she will like want to take charge and do it herself at the same time. And maybe she doesn't even have the time to cook, but she will insist on doing it and
Yes.
all that. Even when the man is willing to help you. She's not receptive of the love, of the care, of the help that she may need, not only from her spouse, but maybe from a family member, or maybe even like hiring someone to come into the picture and help out in this particular role.
Yes, women are really under a lot of pressure in that way you're just describing. One of the nice things about verbalizing what it is you need and want, um, or expect or appreciate from your partner, is that it helps you think of what it is yourself. So, what do
Mm-hmm.
I need and want and expect? And so, verbalizing it makes us have to think about what it is really that
Yeah.
we are missing and needing more of.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, women really have. Each gender has their own pressures. Evelyn's really described very well how the pressures that women can find themselves under, and men, partly because of their way of looking at things, can be under a different pressure of kind of loneliness, being out trying to provide and compete with other people, and feeling a lot of stress and anxiety, but not expressing it to anyone. And so they're
Yeah.
carrying it inside all by themselves. And this is where
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we see drinking or gambling or other kind of behaviors coming in as men try to get rid of that stress.
Yeah.
Another one we have on our list here, I'm just looking at our outline, is that could be done to an extreme, would be where a person plays a supportive role all the time. Now, of
Mm-hmm.
course, some of it and in the right places is good. But what I mean is when somebody is always taking the supportive role, the other
Mm-hmm.
person's creating his identity and his life and what he wants, and the woman is just being supportive. This is a little bit
Mm-hmm.
like passivity, like we talked about earlier,
Yeah.
where the person can become kind of invisible and
Mm-hmm.
like they, almost aren't there.
So
And
they're kind of acting like supportive, like a supporting act, like in a movie. Like we say, life is like a movie, and you're the main character. So, but in their own life, they are a supportive character to other people's
Mhm.
stories, other than their own.
And when I do counseling with couples, many times the more domineering or decisive person, often it's the man, but sometimes it's the woman. But whoever's the more dominant, they don't like the other person being so passive and submissive. They miss something when that
Yeah.
person isn't a full person, isn't a real person. They miss it.
Mm. Yeah. Because sometimes in relationships, you can have an idea or a thought about something, and when you present it to your partner, you just don't want like whatever you want, babe, or you can do this, babe. They like sometimes you want the why don't you do this, or why don't you add this into your idea, or why don't you move this way instead. Like if you want a discussion, you don't want the cheerleader all the time.
Hmm. No,
Yeah.
I agree with that. Um,
Mm-hmm.
the next couple on our list are kind of sort of related. One is focusing too much on being socially acceptable, and the other
Mm-hmm.
one is focusing too much on making other people happy. You can see there's a theme here of
Yeah.
all the things we've talked about, whether it's passivity or it's focusing too much on the welfare and the well-being of others as opposed
Yeah.
to oneself.
Mm-hmm.
But being socially acceptable, um, now some men are not that way, and then some women are not that way. But I think it's when we do it too much, we think of it more as a feminine trait, but it can be very limiting to our own growth, where we're focusing mostly on making other people happy.
Yeah. I kind of have been guilty of most of these traits, like the valuing others people's needs and ideas over my own,
Oh,
the play supportive role, the focusing on social acceptance and focusing on the happiness of others over a group. And to be honest, I when I look back, I think that like growing up as a woman in maybe my household or even in school or in society, it was expected of me. Like if I if I had an opinion, like I should have kept it to myself. If I have a contrary um, idea on how to deal with an issue other than what is being discussed, I should have kept it to myself. You know, like a woman is not allowed to speak when men are speaking. Like it's kind of like I grew up in that environment where like the woman sits and she's, you know, like she's brought bread and butter and she's supposed to cook and do all that, and she should be willing and able to cook a meal for 5 hours, 3 hours. To be honest, I've never really gotten that. And I used to battle a lot in my mind, and I'm like, okay, I feel like I can be doing much more with my time other than this. And like recently on social media, on Kenyan social media, there's this lady who's been showcased a lot, and she's making a meal for over 20 hours. Like maybe she's like, you know, like she's the one who is killing the turkey herself, like you know, like plucking the feathers and letting it drain for like 24 hours, and then like she's gonna dig a big hole and you know like create a natural ground oven. Like she's making meals for hours and hours, and then like the caption is talking about like, oh, this is what a real woman should be like and most of the time she's like the captions are like she's making a meal for her husband, and some men are using this against the you know the modern woman who like um I don't think naturally she has the time to make a meal for even 3 hours, leave alone 20. And also, she's been made to feel like there's something wrong with her because she's not taking a gender role that is expected of her in society.
mhm.
Yeah, and it took a while before I was able to like remove the guilt of I'm supposed to do this. I'm supposed to cook. I'm supposed like I don't like cooking all the time. I'm more of a creative cook who likes to cook whenever they want and when they have a creative idea about cooking. And it is expected of me as an African woman to cook every single day. So I wondered, how exactly am I going to get a husband with this attitude? Like, I don't like washing clothes. I know I shouldn't be saying this on air, but it's true. Like I have voiced my concern, guys, and don't worry, I am good. But as in, like I don't like I've never liked washing like my own clothes. I've never loved doing laundry. I find it sometimes a waste of my time and energy to do some of these chores because most of the time my brain is thinking in a creative way. I want to be seated writing a song, maybe choreographing a dance or painting or something like that. So if I take that time when I have a creative idea and you tell me to clean my clothes at that moment, you are killing my dream. So, so I used to feel like I am a social outcast, and there was something wrong with me. And then I realized that not everyone thinks like that, and
Right.
not everyone thinks
Well,
like that, and not everyone accepts that.
two
So
things, two reactions I have to that, Evelyn, is first of all, it's wonderful that you know these things about yourself. You've
mhm,
discovered them and you're still young. So you've found out a lot of things about yourself and you can verbalize them at still a fairly young age. And so the other thing that strikes me when you're talking about this is that then you will need to find a partner who respects and enjoys that type of person and who
Yeah.
doesn't expect the other kind that likes and is willing to do the menial things for many hours. And so knowing yourself will help you find the right person for you so that it
Yeah.
works together. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, no, I think that's
I
really
think
good.
because it actually used to be used against us. You're like, oh, you don't like, why are you not washing this and that? What kind of wife will you make? Like, it used to be used against me.
Hmm.
And when I grew up, I am so glad I discovered this when I was this young, because I
Yeah,
was able to start making the right choices and communicating what my boundaries are. And to be honest, I have met people who are comfortable with that. They prefer a woman who is working. They prefer a woman who is doing, other things other than just like you sit down or you're cooking for your husband for 5 hours. They consider that a waste of time. Like, to be honest, like, I think it's important for you to know yourself and what you want, because you will communicate that to the partner that you are looking for and
right.
who is
And you only
you.
need one person. So
Mm-hmm.
even if maybe most men might not be looking for that kind of person, but you're only
Yeah,
needing to find one. And
yeah,
so, really, so nice to hear you talk about what you already know about yourself. And
yeah,
then, if you are meeting somebody for the first time and you're beginning to talk about things, then getting more serious, you'd have a lot of those things to share openly up, in the beginning, and hopefully that would encourage the other person to say what his ideas and expectations are. And
yeah,
it might be a fit or it might not be. But I really appreciate you being able to talk about all those things that you've realized about yourself.
yeah. It is really, really important. To be honest, I think since 2020, I've been living like the truest version of myself. Before that, I was living a version of me that was created by society and with
Uh-huh.
like guided by societal expectations. And to be honest, like, I suppressed a lot of my goals and dreams because of that. Because
Uh-huh.
I felt that I wasn't acceptable and I couldn't do certain things like pursue my music or pursue my art, because I will be deemed a social outcast. What exactly are you doing?
Hmm.
And to be honest, like, I feel happier living the truest version of myself because of this. And it is really important for people to know that if you hide a version of yourself so that you can be acceptable to society or to a loved one or to someone else, and you end up suppressing who you truly are, it will come out one way or the other, and it won't come out well. And it will cause, or at the time when you discover it, you might end up uh, maybe you're in a wrong situation because you chose a partner who accepted the version of you that you're pretending to be. So you also being unfair to your partner because you're not telling them who you truly are. It is
Uh-huh.
important to communicate the truest version of yourself to your partner so that if they want to accept you as you are, they have the choice to. But if they cannot live with the kind of person you truly are, it is important for you to communicate early so
Mhm.
that they do not choose wrong and you don't end up messing someone else's life as well
Yeah.
as your own.
And I think in any relationship, each person wants the other person to be happy. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and so that's where a lot of compromising comes in. Um, because in almost every relationship, people are different from each other to some degree. And so what they want to be happy is not necessarily the other person's idea of happiness. And so one of the research findings that we have in our country is that really happy couples that stay together for a long time, and of course they're different some ways from each other, they take turns. So instead of always compromising, let's say what to do on a vacation, or uh, whether to eat meals at home, or um, just various different things. They have different desires. And so instead of always compromising and meeting in the middle, they tend to take turns. And one time they do something the way one partner really likes it, and the other time they do something the way the other partner really likes it. And that means that half of the time, each person is getting what they really want. Whereas sometimes with compromising, neither person is getting really everything they really want. So compromising is better than nothing, but taking turns sometimes is what couples find themselves doing to really last for many years together.
Mm-hmm.
Another one on our list. Oh, go ahead, Evelyn.
No, I was just like saying, I think that is amazing, taking time.
Hmm. Yeah, I've used that a lot in my counseling with couples, that this principle of, first of all, expressing what you really feel and want to each other, and then seeing to it that over time, generally, we're fairly equally taking turns on things like that. Some couples, one person likes to go out and be social, the other person likes to stay home and have it be quiet. Well, there isn't really a compromise in between. So maybe half the time we do it one way and half the time we do it the other way. And it's just been a very good practical principle that I've used a lot. The next thing on our list is that it could be toxic at times is not expressing anger. And by this, we don't mean not being angry, but it's just like, because we all get angry, but it's like when we are that way, not expressing it. Men are very good usually about expressing their anger. Sometimes they don't do it in words, they do it by actions or facial expressions or whatever, or criticism. A lot of times it's through criticism. But yeah, when a woman or either person has angry feelings and doesn't say it, doesn't let the partner know, that's not good. That's
Yeah.
not good for the person who's holding it in, and it's not good for the partner who doesn't then hear it.
Yeah. Most of the time, let me explain to you this as a woman. And let me tell you how bad it can be for you and your partner. Sometimes you were having a conversation, and then you had a like the way you interpreted maybe a statement or something that happened was wrong. Then you get angry at your partner, and then you're quiet the whole time. Clearly your face and your actions show that you're angry. So you're angry for like a whole day over this particular situation. Then your partner asks you, what is going on? Are you okay? You say you're okay. Clearly you're not okay. Then by the time you are expressing, like if they can tolerate it, they will insist until you talk. And and some will not even insist. They'll be like, oh, you're fine, fine. And then now you get more angry that they are not insisting for you to talk. It becomes like you are digging, like you're going down a rabbit hole that is never ending. By the time you communicate, let's say like the next day, you're communicating what you thought or how you perceived a certain situation. He explains it, and turns out you had it wrong. So this whole time you have been on an angry spree all on your own because you didn't communicate your anger and you were feeling a certain way, and you ended up even maybe breaking a dish, or I don't know, whatever it is you did in your anger, and also making the environment such an uncomfortable space. And maybe he ran away and he went to his boys or something to get away from you because clearly you don't want to speak, you don't want to say what's wrong. By the time you have this conversation, you realize this was just a misunderstanding and no one intended to harm you.
Well,
You
this
kind
is
of end up
really
feeling terrible.
yeah, a good way to bring this up, because sometimes we hear the phrase passive aggressive. And that is what Evelyn is talking about here, where instead of expressing I'm angry about whatever it is. I
Yeah.
actually just I actually express it by what I don't do. I
Yeah.
don't smile. I don't communicate. I disappear. I take myself out of the situation, um,
Yeah.
or I do something indirect, facial expressions, or slamming the door, or
Yeah.
whatever. And it just it puzzles the other person. First of all, they don't really understand what's going on. They
Sometimes they
yes.
don't even know what they did wrong.
Mhm. Yes,
And sorry.
no, and it also keeps you from figuring out what really has happened. Like Evelyn was saying, I mean, eventually you may find out that it was a misunderstanding of some sort.
Yeah, or maybe based on where he grew up and everything, whatever he did sounded, or maybe even like his friends, whatever he did may not have seemed like such a big deal, but to you it was a big deal. So maybe like they hurt you, but they didn't know they hurt you because they thought he was just kidding or he was just joking. But you took it personally, but you did not communicate how you feel and you did not draw the boundary on certain maybe a certain joke or something. So you are angry this whole time and you expect him to be an angel to think and know and figure out what you're going through.
Mhm.
And if you do not communicate this, especially if you like go on a long period of time, to be honest, most of the time you are the one who end up suffering for such a long time
Uh-huh.
because most men will remove themselves from the situation, give you space until you're able to communicate what you're feeling, and half of the time they continue with their lives as normal.
You know, the research also shows that when you're angry, if you do nothing, that actually has the worst effect on you in the long run. If you do something, but it's indirect, it's
Mhm.
better, but it's not, it still has problems. If you actually put your anger into words and say it, I'm angry or hurt or because of so that has the best result in the long run
Yeah.
with another when you're dealing with another person and the best result on yourself. The worst is doing nothing, holding it in, not
Hmm.
expressing it even indirectly. The next worst or next better is doing something but indirect, like slamming the door or crying or rushing out of the house. But the best is simply putting it into words. And also, when we do that, we can also understand some of the nuances of our feelings. Sometimes when we think we're angry and we try to put it into words, it turns out we're really nervous or afraid or
Hmm.
anxious or lonely or something that isn't really anger.
Hmm.
Very often, underneath anger are more what we call primary emotions, like
Yeah.
hurt or loneliness or sadness, and things like that. And especially this is true when men are expressing anger. Very often, it's another emotion underneath that's really driving it.
Yeah. I think sadly is that sometimes I think not just women, like it is important to communicate like your truest needs, like whatever it is you need from your partner or maybe your family member or anyone. Like if you suppress those needs, you might end up feeling frustrated and bitter and getting angry because you're expecting them to know what you need, or maybe if they interpret your needs with what maybe they need and expect that maybe because they are showing you love the way they want to be shown love, that that should be okay. But because you do not communicate what it is you need, you end up getting bitter and frustrated because you don't communicate. And it is important for you to communicate like your trust needs to your partner.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Maybe we should do a program sometime on what they call love languages. You know,
Yeah.
the ways that people interpret being loved. We all
Mm-hmm.
grow up with certain ideas about that because of our families, but then we get together with another person from another family, and they have not been trained exactly the same way. And our love language is what we think of as symbolizing the other person loves us is different. And so we're somewhat missing each other. I think you've identified too, Evelyn, another toxic behavior, and that is where you expect the other person to know what it is you need or feel.
Mm-hmm.
That it's natural. We do all do it a little bit. We think that surely they understand. They can see how upset I am. Surely they know, but they may not
Mm-hmm.
know exactly. I've had to
Yeah.
work on this as a therapist over the years because sometimes a person will be saying something in one of our meetings, and I think I know what they mean, but it turns out later on they didn't mean exactly what I thought. They meant
Yeah.
something that's unique to them. Anyway,
Mm.
e- expecting other people to know how we feel or what we need, that would be a toxic behavior
Yeah.
if we do it too much.
Yeah, it is. It is. And never assume that people think or feel or react to things the way you do. Like you are a unique human being, like you as yourself, because you have gone through different things, you have been
Mhm.
raised from a different background, different culture, and all that. So if you are around people, do not expect them to feel or react or even interpret the world the way you do.
Uh-huh.
And that's actually, I think that was like one of my aha moments as an adult, because I think I kind of thought that the whole world thinks the way I do, or maybe feel the same way I do. So I used
Uh-huh.
to get shocked, like if someone reacted in a negative way, especially in terms of like hurting someone, if they hurt another person, and I'd be like, I will never do that. So I'm expecting like they should feel the same way. Or if someone hurts me, and I think the biggest shock is not them hurting me, was what was in their mind when they were thinking of doing that. And I came to realize that you the way other people interpret life is very different. So never assume that people will think or feel or even interpret the world the way you do.
Uh-huh.
It will save you trouble.
That's very well said. Another one on our list is being prone to feel guilty. In other words, when something's going wrong or someone is unhappy, having an impulse within ourselves to feel it must be me, it must be my fault.
Mhm.
Now, of course, thinking about is it something I've done is all right. That's fine, but assuming it's something I've done and it's my fault and feeling guilty, um, guilt is an emotion we really don't want people to have. It's a very negative emotion. Now, regret is an all right emotion. There may be something you've done and you regret it. So you wish you hadn't done it and you would do it differently next time. But guilt is not only regretting something, but also feeling like a bad person because of having done something. So but anyway, a proneness to feel guilt if the other person is unhappy or criticizing me, or it would be something to be careful about. It's usually
Mhm.
not appropriate to feel guilty. Now, regret, yes, and you can apologize if you've done something you regret, but guilty, that feeling of being wrong and being bad, is
Mhm.
that's not good for our mental health.
Yeah. Mm. I think that is, wow, that hits home.
Uh, mhm.
Yeah.
We've all done it. Yes, we've all felt guilty, but it
Yeah.
doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't. It's not a productive emotion. If I'm
Hmm.
sorry about something and I regret it and I apologize, it gives me a way forward. but
Mm-hmm.
just feeling guilty, like, what's wrong with me? How could I have done something like that?
Mm-hmm.
I must be a broken person or a bad person. It doesn't give us a way forward.
Yeah. I think one of the things that have helped me to deal with this was realizing that I am not perfect. I am human, and I'm prone to making bad choices and bad decisions based on maybe the moment, the circumstance, and everything. And each time I fail is an opportunity for me to grow. So every single time that I have done something that I regretted, I remind myself that, because if I dwell on the fact that maybe I did something that ended up to hurt someone else and all that, and I start feeling like I start judging myself as a terrible human being and all that,
Uh-huh.
it's counterproductive. So when I remind myself that I am human, I'm prone to making mistakes, and it won't be the last time that I make a mistake. And as long as I have learned from this situation and I have become a better person because of it, then it's just my opportunity to learn and grow and improve myself in a better way.
Hmm. No, that's very well said. And then the last one we had on our list, although there are many other ways of being toxic, but the last one we had on our outline was being overly concerned with our personal appearance.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't mean a little bit, we're all concerned about our personal appearance and hygiene and being healthy, but it can be taken too far at times.
Yeah, yeah. Where maybe you don't like you will let someone down because you are busy taking care of maybe your hair or something,
Mhm,
or like you're too worried about your clothes and your this, like maybe your face and all that, then you might end up hurting people because of that. And I think another way I actually came across was when, and you see how men use their strength to control and manipulate women. Some women also use their beauty to control and manipulate men. You know that this is something that's your superpower, your beauty, your femininity. So you might end up like using sex appeal to manipulate and control men to do what you want, to do your bidding.
mhm.
And I think that's, for me, that is toxic.
I think one of our themes today is being direct and open and saying what we feel and want and expect and what our boundaries are, and not symbolizing them through some other kind of behavior.
Yeah.
Just doing it with language, saying it with language. It gives us a
Mhm.
chance to be much clearer, and it gives us a chance, if the other person doesn't understand, they can ask. But when we
Yeah.
do it through some indirect form, could be
Mhm.
like beauty or appearance or something that's manipulated. There are so many opportunities for misunderstanding.
Yeah. Yeah. That is so true. Um, I feel like we have exhausted like most of the things that we wanted to discuss today, and this is an interesting topic, and it gives me like a lot to think about, and I really hope that it also gives you a lot to think about. And in case you have any questions, any comments that about this topic or any other topic, don't be afraid to reach out to us and communicate. Thank you so much for watching, for joining us. Kindly share, like, and subscribe our channels, and help us spread some positivity, mental
Uh-huh.
health awareness. And yesterday was actually World Mental Health Day.
Oh,
Yeah,
I did not know that.
yeah. So here at Mind to Mind, we would like to wish you um, holistic well-being. Take care of
Uh-huh.
yourself physically, Take care of your
That's
heart, take care of your body, take care of your mind, take care of your soul, and always strive to be the best version of yourself
that's
every
very,
day.
very well said. I look forward
Yeah.
to our next meeting, and let us know if you have any questions.
All right. Have a lovely evening.
Okay, goodbye.
Bye bye.